So we're joined from the DMV, Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, by Sydney Armbrister, manager with corporate activation with the DC United in Major League Soccer. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. It's our personal finance class. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for fitting us in your very busy schedule today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to get to chat with you today.
Well, obviously, we want to talk about what you're doing with the DC United there, but let's give us a little background. You're originally from South Florida, Miami,
Yes,
and you played college volleyball. You
I
played it on the
did.
Division One level at Delaware State, which is a HBCU there in Dover in the MEAC. So
Mhm.
just talk about that transition. I've got a room full here with me of high school athletes. All of
Yeah.
them have the dream of playing on the Division One level. We have a volleyball player. We got basketball, football, track, powerlifting, all in the room with me. So just talk about that transition from being a high school athlete there in South Florida to being a Division One athlete in Delaware.
Yeah. So, like you said, born and raised in Miami, 305 till I die. Grew up playing multiple different sports, basketball, track, volleyball. Volleyball and track were kind of like my favorite two in high school. South Florida is very competitive when it comes to sports. They're big football state, big volleyball state. So playing in high school was super fun because we played at really big schools and got to see a lot of great talented people who got to play everywhere. Realized volleyball was kind of my first love, really wanted to play collegiately, and that's where I ended up at Delaware State University. I grew up going to very predominantly white schools growing up. So going to Delaware State was definitely different for me, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. Because like how many more times in my life am I going to look around and see so many professional and people that are trying to get somewhere else in life that look like me. So it was different, but it was the best decision I've ever made in being able to play at the Division 1 level and be able to get my bachelor's degree and eventually my master's degree all pretty much paid for. Was the best decision I ever made. I highly recommend if you have the talent to play at a collegiate level, even if it's Division 1, 2, 3, like there's different levels or schools for anybody, do it. It's a great, not only do you like learn skills that will help you go forever, like I've all my teamwork, team leadership skills, working with people help me in my current jobs today. Um, Definitely do it. It was definitely a transition kind of going from Miami to Delaware, just in terms of the weather and all the things, but I'm a big advocate of like going away and kind of getting to grow up and experience different things. I
Yeah,
feel like,
and the networking aspect is out of this world as well.
yeah, you meet so many people. So many people just from living in this area. And I know Delaware is not really the DMV, but this up area that knows so many people from South Florida. So you just get to expand your network and meet a ton of people.
Now, now obviously, and I agree. If somebody has the opportunity to play collegiate sports, they need to. In
Yeah,
Mississippi, junior college sports are really big too. So
yeah,
that would be a great idea. But one thing that
absolutely.
I think is misunderstood by so many kids, and unfortunately, you finished up your college career as the NIL era was coming in.
I know. I
But
just
the
started.
NIL, just like the letters of intent, when you get
Yep,
a scholarship to play collegiately, that is not a guaranteed scholarship.
yep,
It literally says on there that you have to stay academically eligible,
yep.
and if you're not cutting it in practice, those are 1 year letters of intent. If
Hmm.
they find somebody better than you, they're going to bring you in. And then the NIL money, which everybody thinks is automatic, NIL also has caveats with it. It says
Yeah,
in order to keep collecting this money, you must still be playing.
yeah,
A company is not going to pay you to wear their apparel on the court if you're not on the team. So
absolutely.
just talk about that commitment, because in college it's not like in high school where you can skip practice and still be on the team. You can't just skip school because you're tired. So talk about that time management, because especially on a
Yeah,
Division 1 level, you're on flights going across the country. You
yeah.
got to stay on top of that, of those academics.
Yeah, so it's definitely different than college than high school, especially if you're playing at the Division level, like you just kind of said. We wake up, we're lifting at 6 a.m. and we're going to practice and then we're going to breakfast, like all the things. So it's definitely different. And if you are not responsible enough or kind of just mature enough to kind of maintain that schedule, you can definitely fall to the pressures of college, right? College is also the first time a lot of people are by themselves and not really with their parents and don't have their parents telling them, make sure you do this, that, and the third. So yeah, you definitely have to maintain your GPA. I've seen it many different times of girls getting unfortunately let go from the team because they didn't maintain the GPA. And like the team also has to maintain a certain GPA just to look good for the rest of the school. So academics are far more important than sports. Like, because at the end of the day, like you're probably not going to play your sport forever, just physically and everything. And what you'll need to fall back on is your degree and being able to use that degree in the real world. And I think a lot of kids kind of get lost in that sometimes, of course. And now that NIL has been involved, it's even crazier, right? More money's involved, different things are involved, which makes things different. But yeah, just being able to kind of maintain that is super important and being able to know that academics come first. And for different schools, I don't know, this is kind of how it works for me. Like my scholarship was very much like they gave me the full academic scholarship. And then what my academic scholarship didn't cover was covered with athletics. So also like having great grades going into college is just as important too, because you could also just get more money in scholarship in that regard. Okay.
I'm sorry, I had somebody at my door. Now,
Okay.
along with that,
Yeah.
and like you said, it depends on where you go.
Yeah.
When I was at the University of Southern Mississippi, I would
Okay.
have classes with guys that wound up playing in the NFL. But
Yeah.
there was always some guy would come in there, be writing things down, and then he'd leave. And I said, "Who is that?" And they said, "Well, that's the assistant coach. He comes and checks if we're in class, and if we're not in class, we're up at 5 a.m. running punishment runs." So, and
Absolutely.
these are guys, and some of these guys went on to play in the NFL for a few years. So this was, they don't care who you are. They have an academic standard they have to hold on to, and it can affect the eligibility of the team if grades drop.
Absolutely.
So
And study
anybody
hall's
that wants to
huge in
play a
college
sport,
too. Yeah. And
yeah,
you have to go to mandatory study hall, especially like at least I know like the first 2 years for sure. You're in mandatory study hall. We had to do like 10 to 15 hours. And it forces you, it's mandatory, but it also forces you, like you have no excuse not to get your work done. And I know many schools have things like that.
yeah. Now, obviously, you got your degree in sports management and a master's in sports management at Delaware State, and
Yes.
you used that sports background and that networking to get. You started out working with the Bowie Bay Sox in the
Correct.
Double A Eastern League farm team of the Baltimore Orioles,
Yeah.
and now you've moved on to Major League Soccer there with the DC United with corporate corporate activation, I think is the correct word. Now,
Correct.
I do want to talk about what that is because I think people don't understand the business side of sports.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big New Orleans Saints fan, and when
Okay.
I go to the Superdome, I see a lot of advertisements. I see the official beer of the New Orleans Saints, the official soft
Yeah.
drink of the New Orleans Saints, the official chiropractor of the New Orleans Saints, which I always thought was funny. So, we see the product on TV. We go to the games. We buy the ticket. We buy the concessions. But these teams are also looking to find sponsors to add not only to the game day experience because a lot of these corporate partners they'll have giveaways there to advertise for themselves. It's really cool. Carnival
Exactly.
Cruise Lines, I think, does such a cool job at the Superdome. They give away free cruises. They really
Yeah.
find a way to get their name out there.
Mhm.
So talk about you parlayed that into this career where you're there with the DC United. When people are at Audi Field, they're
Mhm.
going to be able to get sponsorship information from these companies, and it
Yeah.
really adds to the game day experience.
Absolutely. So, like you said, a lot of people, when I say I work on partnerships, sponsorships, are like, what exactly does that mean? I like to kind of say, like, you just gave perfect examples of what partnerships and sponsorships look like in sports. It's pretty much like all these big brands, like, for example, Audi Fields. Like, Audi Field is a partnership that we have where Audi Field spends marketing dollars with us and they have stadium naming rights as well as so many other activations that come at that. So, in my role, I'm not more on the sales side. I'm more on the activation side. With my role with the Bay Sox, I was doing it all from prospecting, sales, all the way down to the activation. Now I kind of handle just the activation side. So once our sales team has found a partner that wants to spend X amount of dollars to do this advertising or X amount of dollars to bring this partnership to life, the account is then handed over to me, and I'm responsible for pretty much bringing that partnership to life. So whether it's the stadium naming rights, whether it's cool promotional items that we're giving away at game days, any kind of giveaways, any kind of experiences that you can think of, I kind of manage all of that and make sure that our fans get to see all the cool things that we get to do with our partners. We do a lot of stuff in the community as well, like around DC with different schools, bringing players, and also just a lot of like our partners will donate different things to them. So Partnerships and sponsorship is a big world, and I think a lot of the time people don't know that most of a team's revenue comes from partnerships and sponsorships. And of course, like ticket sales. But at the end of the day, like it's going to come from, and I'm making this up, a partner who's giving us $4 million to do this. Like that is a lot where the team's revenue come. And without partnerships and sponsorships, teams probably would not be able to stay afloat as much as they can. So that's why you
Oh yeah.
see a lot of partners because that's a lot of our revenue. That's where we get a lot of our money from. But it's a great space to work in. And like you touched a lot on networking. My job is pretty much 90% networking and relationship management and making sure that people and the partners that I work with are happy and making sure that their vision that they had for this partnership is executed in the way that they want to see it.
Yeah, and a selling point is, at Audi Field, y'all are averaging 17, 18,000 fans a
Yeah,
game. You've got to let the sponsor know, here's how many eyes are going to be on it. Here's our target market of our team. Here's how we can help you. So it really
absolutely.
is, I know you're not in direct sales, but it is still type of a sale to
Oh, for
um,
sure.
in business. And I think that is such a lost skill because if you are
Absolutely.
going to be successful in business, no matter what you do, you're going to have to be able to communicate. You're going to be able to have customer service skills. And I always hear kids say, "Well, man, I'm just going to drive a truck. I mean, I don't need customer service skills." Yes, you do. You've got to be able to look at
Okay.
somebody and say, "Here's what I'm offering. Here's what it costs. Here's how it can help you." And I think that's
Absolutely.
what you do every day, and it is on a massive level. You're one of the major pro sports in the United States, and yeah, Christian Benteke can put the ball in the goal all day long, but
Yeah.
if people aren't paying for those activations, the fans might cheer, but at the end of the day, DC United's got to make money.
Absolutely. And nobody wants to come to a boring sporting, like, not that sports are boring, but like people go to NBA games, NFL games for the entire experience. You're not just going, I mean, sure, you're going there to watch football, but you're going there to go see the cool things they have at the stadium, different in-game features. Like, that's what brings fans back. And if you don't have a good in-game production from your partners, that helps you kind of bring that experience to life. It's hard to keep making people come back. So, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and this is a great field for any former athlete to get into
For
because
sure.
you may have a Division I skill in sports, but everybody doesn't have professional sports skills. It's a numbers game. I mean, if you look at the roster of the DC United, over half of the team is not from the United States. So you
Yeah.
have players coming in from all over the world, even in the NBA and even in
Yeah.
Major League Baseball. You have team players coming in from all over the world. So, but these teams still want people that understand sports to get in there and work with the team to help make it a profitable business.
One thing I have learned as I've been working in sports for these past couple of years is how being a former athlete is very attractive to a lot of these
Yeah.
sports organizations. Not, I mean, to your point, yes, you understand the sports world, but just to the point of the skills that you develop as you play on a team and have to interact with people and stepping up to be a leader and time management, like employers love that. They love to hear, yes, I was a former athlete because especially if you played in college playing in college, you're like, oh, well, I know this person knows how to do this, that, and the third. And I know that if they come here, they'll be doing those things. That's something I've heard so much in the interviewing processes.
Big time. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, and I know you're not on the soccer operations side. You're
Right.
in corporate activation, but you
Mhm.
still see how the team operates, and you see
Absolutely.
these players a lot. I mentioned Christian Benteke. He's from Belgium, one of the best scorers in the MLS. Cairo, one of the best defenders in Major League Soccer. But these guys
Yeah.
aren't just showing up and collecting paychecks. The
Hmm.
demand for professional athletes, we talked about it for a college athlete. For a professional athlete, it is probably tenfold is the amount of time they practice, the amount of time they have to spend in film, the amount of time they spend traveling. So talk about the demand of a professional athlete because every kid tells me they want to play pro sports, but they don't understand the amount of dedication that it takes to keep your spot. Because we talked about even on the college level, they'll find somebody to replace you. If you think they won't do it in pro sports in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We saw in the NFL this week there were kickers getting released and teams were finding new ones the very next week. So
Yeah.
talk about the level of commitment for a professional athlete because I don't think people understand how tough it really is.
Yeah, so in my department, we get to work with the athletes a lot for different kinds of things, and they are busy all the time, whether they're like I don't know their exact schedules, but I know they'll like lift in the morning and then they'll be at practice for like 3 hours and they do film, and then they might have to go to an event with our partnerships team. Like they are busy all the time and they travel all the time too. And soccer season is long. Like it may not be as many games as basketball or baseball, but soccer season is pretty much from February until like November. So almost the entire year, these guys are some point of their life, they are busy and just traveling everywhere and just having to be kind of on the beck and call of the team, right? And like you said, it is very easy. I see players all the time. They'll come and be with us for a couple weeks and then they'll be gone. If their play isn't up to par, they'll move down to like our feeder team, like Loudoun United. It happens all the time and they have no control over it, unfortunately, just because they are getting paid to do a job. And if you aren't doing that job, see ya. And that happens very often. And I think people think that when you get to professional sports, everything is guaranteed, and it's not at all. And I know a lot in like the NFL, like a lot of the contracts aren't guaranteed contracts, and a lot of these guys will play for one season or a couple of games, and then they're not performing, and then it's gone. So I definitely think it's even 100, like you said, 100 times more pressure, 100 times more things you have to be able to be doing all the time. And kudos to anybody who does it. I don't know if I could do it, but it's hard and it's a lot to see just from the outside looking in.
Yeah, and something that I think is also misunderstood because we see the big contract people sign.
Yeah.
Lionel Messi down with Inter Miami got what I think the richest contract in MLS history, but
Insane.
they have
Yeah.
what's called the designated player rule. But only three players on a team can have that. And then you
Yeah.
look even in the NFL, you have to play 5 years, uh, 5 full years before you can sign a free agent contract. The NBA, I think, is six, and I don't know all the rules off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
it takes a long time to start making that serious money that we see the Tom Brady's of the world making. And
Absolutely.
the crazy thing is, I hear people that say, "Look, I use my name playing pro sports to maybe put a little money aside, and I started a business, and now I make 10 times what I would have made, and nobody's hitting me and yelling at me every day."
Yep.
And and the example I always use, and I'm good friends with his daughter, but Sammy Winder, who played 10 years in the NFL
Okay.
here in Madison County, played
Yep.
in the Pro Bowl, played in the Super Bowls, and he makes way more money running a trucking company than he ever
Yeah.
made playing football, and nobody's hitting him. So
Yeah.
you can use that time to make smart decisions, or you can be the subject of a 30 for 30, where you've gone broke because you tried to ball out just because you found a little money when you were 21 years old.
Absolutely. And you hear that a lot. Like a lot of the guy, not a lot, but you hear some stories like that where these young athletes get rich very, very quickly. And they just unfortunately do not have the education to manage that money. And that money sometimes does not always go and is invested the way it should be. So that's dope. I never heard of him, that player you were just talking about. That's a dope story.
Yeah, and yeah, he's older. I'm way older than you, so he was before your time. But he is a legend here in Mississippi. Played for the Denver Broncos. But I always love his daughter always tells me that. I think it's so funny. Now,
Absolutely.
before I get to their questions, I think it's important because we need more women and we need more young black kids to look at getting in the business side of sports.
Agreed.
I always say I get so frustrated when I hear people talk about, that kid needs to be playing sports. Well, just because they're black doesn't mean that they're going to be a great athlete. We need more great black kids in every field. And it doesn't matter, look, and I was quoted in a magazine as saying this, and I'll say it on a recording here, that resources and access did not exist for decades in a lot of communities, especially rural black communities.
Yep.
But just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yep.
And we saw the Las Vegas Raiders that have the black female president of football operations, and you never seen that. We've seen thousands of black NFL players, but we don't see a lot of black NFL executives. We don't
Yep.
see a lot of black women working in the front office of Major League Soccer teams. So obviously, you're a trailblazer to a certain degree, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. But these kids need to understand. Look, we hope they play college sports. We're going to support them in their endeavors, but they need to be able to have leadership roles in any field. We need more good young black men. We need more good young black women to step up and be leaders across all industries.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. It was a huge, huge shock to me. Again, I grew up in Miami. Miami's a very diverse place.
Yeah.
Lots of Hispanic people, lots of Black people, especially lots of Caribbean people. So it's very diverse. When I worked in the minor league baseball team, I went to like a conference for it was all of our teams in the Eastern Conference. I knew baseball was very much predominantly white sport and very much predominantly white male sport, but I guess it didn't clicked to me until I went to the conference, and I was the only black girl there.
Wow.
Only black girl there. There was maybe, I think there was like an Indian girl. She looked Indian. I don't know if she was Indian for sure. And then like I think one black guy, and there was probably like 400 of us. So
Wow.
out of the 400, there was three people of color. I was the only black woman, and like that was like holy crap, excuse my language, sorry if I can't say crap, but holy crap. Um, I was like, this is, I don't know, it was just really insane to see and kind of be in and be like, I didn't really notice it at first until I got to the conference and looked around and I was like, nobody looks like me. That was crazy to just kind of experience. Um, the team I work for now, if you didn't know, I'm going to tell you right now, DC United is our president is Danita Johnson, who was the first Black president in the MLS
Wow.
and female.
Cool.
So first Black and female. So when I was, she was the CEO of the LA Sparks for a while. So look her up. She
Cool.
is like goals. Like talk
That's
about
awesome.
goals. Like I want to be like that woman. So when I was applying to jobs, that's something that definitely attracted me a lot to this position. I knew I wanted to stay in the DMV, but then I was like, oh wow, getting to work for the first Black female president in the MLS is something that you can't really say. And like, I want to be like her one day. So that was like, I want to work here. And just that alone, I was like applying, applying, applying. So like, I don't think people always realize the impact of that because just being able to see her at that level made me want to work for this team. And so like that's something I hope to inspire somebody who's younger than me to be like, damn, Sydney's working for this team. I want to be like Sydney. And that's very important. And we definitely need more people of color everywhere in the sports world.
Absolutely. Well, I do have some questions from the students, and I'll get to as many of these as I
Absolutely.
can.
Yeah.
This first one is Jarvis Lyles. He's a senior, one of our football players here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what has been the most rewarding aspect of being in business as compared to being an athlete?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say the most rewarding thing. So, like I said, a lot of my job is making stuff happen, bringing events to life, bringing activations to life. I think the most rewarding thing for me in the business world is kind of being able to see an event or an activation that I have pretty much been spearheading and seeing it come to life and then seeing the satisfaction on the fans' faces as well as the satisfaction on my clients' faces. I believe if you care about what you do, it makes everything that you do more rewarding. And I also think that your work, it also reflects in your work. I'll say like Greg, like clearly you care about a lot what you do in your work, and it clearly shows, I'm sure, in your students. And I'd say that's the most rewarding thing, just seeing like the satisfaction, happiness of people and being like, hell yeah, I just put on this great event and it was a great time. Like that's like I love that satisfaction for me. Different than the satisfaction of being an athlete, but it's almost like winning. Winning and being
Yeah,
able to be like, hell yeah, I did that. That's my favorite
that's
thing.
awesome. I,
Hmm.
I I like this one. This is DeQuavian Black. He's in 10th grade, one of our basketball and football players, and on the track team here.
Dope.
This is an interesting. We didn't really hit on this, but this is an interesting question as well. And he asked, "Do you think your team does enough to make sure the athletes are safe and that their health is being taken care of while they're athletes?"
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I think so. Back to partnership sponsorships. One thing in partnerships is usually we are partners with a healthcare system. And so one that we've been working with for many, many years is Inova Hospital, which is in Virginia. So not only do they spend marketing dollars, they are also our doctors for our athletes,
Wow.
our mental health people. So usually when you partner with a hospital for sports organizations, it usually encompasses all of that. Like it's usually the healthcare for the team, the mental health care for the team. And I know like
Wow.
the Inova hospitals are amazing. I've been there a couple times. And so I would say that they take very good care of our athletes. They always get the best doctors and the first doctors whenever they need it. So yeah, and they do a lot of like mental health work with them, which I think is also super, super important.
That's awesome, and that's another space we need more diversity in are the athletic
Absolutely.
trainers and the orthopedic people. There's never been a bigger need for athletic training with all the technology now. And these teams are investing a lot of money in these players. They want to make sure they're taken care of. So anybody interested in athletic training, there's a lot of great programs here in Mississippi that have great partnerships
Absolutely.
all across the country.
Mhm.
I like this one. They didn't put their name on it, but I think this is Taylor Grayson. No, it's not. I don't know who this is, but they didn't put a name on here.
Okay.
How long did it take you? How long did it take you to get to where you want to be now? And is this the end for you?
No, it's not the end. I'll say it start with there, not the end. How long did it take me? So prior to even working for my minor league baseball team, I was work running a Orange Theory Fitness, a gym for a couple of years. That's
Oh,
also when
cool.
I was like working on my master's degree, and I was ended up kind of moving up my upper ranks. I was the manager, oversaw the whole entire studio. Thought that was very cool. Wanted to get back into the sports world. Was at the minor league baseball team for about a year. And then I transitioned to the MLS team. So I would say like Took me 2 to 3 years to get here. But I will say, like, networking helped a ton. It's
There you
very
go.
hard to get into the sports world, and I don't think people realize that until they try. Um, and it's a lot about who you know and getting your name out there. So like I had a great mentor. Like I said, I'm from Miami. I used to babysit her daughter. So like my mentor was a lady who was like chief of culture for the Miami Heat. So
Oh, cool.
she helped me a lot and just kind of introduced me with kind of different people and like it's a lot of getting your name out there and just shooting someone a LinkedIn message to be like, hey, can we connect? I'm interested in this. Like that is super important, especially as you're trying to enter the sports world. This is not the end for me. I would love to be a Danita Johnson. I would love to be the president of a professional sports organization or a general manager of a team. That's my end goal. So
Well, just don't forget about us when you do, because we love to
I
have you when
won't.
you accomplish that.
Never.
Uh, um,
Never.
and that's so cool because it always is important to have those goals. And look, you said it's not what you know, it's who you know. I take it one step farther. It's who knows you.
Yeah.
You can't just sit and hope people find you.
Yeah.
I got time for two more. This is
Absolutely.
Derek Dozier. He's in 10th grade. He plays football and baseball here at Velma Jackson. And
Cool.
he asked, you've been around a lot of athletes. What do you think is the hardest part about their day-to-day job?
Ooh, been around a lot of athletes. I think the hardest part of your of their day-to-day job of being an athlete. Ooh, that's a hard question. I don't know. I feel like it could be two things. It could be being able to separate your life. Like obviously you're a professional athlete and that is your job, but almost being able to like separate that from your life and still remember that that is not your entire life. Like you are a professional athlete, but you are also a human being who enjoys other things and also needs like not all at like sports all the time. I would say that's very hard to separate sometimes when you kind of get consumed of yes, you're an athlete, but that's not your entire identity. You are so much more than that. And then I would also say another hard thing for athletes is just like something I touched on earlier, like just the kind of feeling of not knowing and kind of always being like, I could get traded, I could get let go, I could get demoted. Like I think that is also a hard thing for athletes because you just don't always know when those things are happening.
Yeah, and to me, the hardest thing would be always having a camera on you. You know,
That,
every MLS game is streamed. A lot of them
yes,
are live on ESPN and things like
yeah,
that. So everything you do is gonna be seen. And to me,
absolutely.
that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, everything on and off the field as well. Hmm.
All right, I got one more, and this is Leah Smith. She plays volleyball here at Velma Jackson, also one of our
Yeah.
cheerleaders. Wants to go to Howard University, which, as we know, at HBCU, same conference as Delaware State.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
she has two questions. She asked, "What was your biggest takeaway from high school sports that you think benefits you in your current career?"
Ooh. My biggest takeaway from high school sports that I think benefits me in my career is learning how to work well and play well with others. Because and like just having and being like confident. I'm a big fan of like faking it until you make it. Like I might not feel the most confident, but I'm gonna act like I am. And if I don't know what's going on, I'm gonna act like I do. I feel like I mastered that very well in high school, and that has helped me in my career. And also just I feel like being a team player and learning how to work with people is very important, especially as you get older and you work in different departments, which are teams, right? Different organizations, and being able to understand people and being able to work well and successful and create goals and get to those goals is an important skill that you learn from sports. And I don't think people always realize how much that translates into the real world because there's lots of different personalities, lots of different people you might like, might not like, but at the end of the day, you need to work with them to do something and get a goal and
There
get
you go.
something done.
There you
Just like
go. I agree.
work on a team. Yep. So that's something I use forever.
And now the other part of her question is, when you first started playing sports, did you
Mhm.
think that you wanted to leave the athlete arena and become on and go to the business side?
Ooh, no. No. And to be fair, I did not even know things like this existed.
Yeah.
Like jobs like this existed when I was growing up playing sports. Like, of course, we all watched teams and would go to all different tournaments and stuff, but it didn't click to me that I'm like, oh crap, I can work in this field. Until I kind of got to college. And I was like, oh, this is very cool. I'm learning more about the business side of sports. No, I did not see myself. I swore I was going to be an occupational therapist. Um, and then which is also a great career, which is also a
Absolutely.
great career. We'll always need occupational therapists. Um, but I was very much set on that, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I like had my eyes open to the sports world and business, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. And I love being around sports because that's all I've grown up being around. And so like I was like, oh, I get to be around sports and get to also have a job. It's kind of like the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple of things before we go. First
Yeah.
of all, if anybody's in the DMV, go check out the DC United Audi Field. Great game day experience. Christian Benteke, one of the most exciting players in the world. Cairo, one of my favorite. He's a dog on defense. So,
Yeah.
really is a great game day experience there. Even if you're kind of a casual soccer fan, a lot of fun there. Check them out on TV. But the last thing before we go, everybody that's here with me is an athlete. They all have the dreams of playing on the Division 1 level like you did, or even playing on the higher level to be paid to play the sport. But as they matriculate through high school and college, junior college, whatever, what do they need to remember as an athlete that's going to make them successful after they stop playing sports?
Mm, What do they need to remember as an athlete is going to make them successful? I would say that's a hard question, Greg, but let me try to think of one thing. What do they need to remember after they finish playing sports? I would say just because you finish playing sports does not mean you are not an athlete anymore. And that's one thing I struggled with that very much when I finished playing sports and kind of finding out who I was without sports in my life. Um, does not mean you are not an athlete anymore. You're still the same person with all the same goals and drive that you had that you put to sports, and now you just have to kind of find it in another way. I think and I mean that's gonna be my saying because that's something I struggled with, and like it's just something always to remember. Just because you aren't playing anymore doesn't mean you're not an athlete. You are still the same person, still just as strong, still just as driven, still just as everything that you had before. You just have to apply it to a different way of life. And while that's a lot easier said than done, you will figure it out and you will find another kind of path of success. It just takes time and you have to believe in yourself and fake it till you make it. Confidence. That's like something that I'm like always about. That's what I would say. Hopefully that was
Love
a
it.
good
Well, we
one.
thank you so much for fitting this in your schedule. It's really cool all the stuff you're doing in the DMV. But we thank you again for joining us. Sydney Armbrister, all the way from Washington, D.C., manager for corporate activation there for the DC United. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone. So great to talk to you.
All right. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Bye.